If you ask any SEGA Saturn fan to name a fighting game on the system, 99% of them will probably answer back with Virtua Fighter 2. And while AM2’s game went on to become the biggest selling Saturn game worldwide, there's another 3D fighting game that's equally deserving of your attention. No, I'm not talking about fighting vipers, sorry Danthrax, but AM3's attempt to take on their colleagues at their own game. Literally. Welcome to the best of SEGA, and in this episode we take a closer look at the phenomenal weapons-based fighter, Last Bronx. Tokyo, sometime in the 1990s. In this alternate take on Japan's capital, the neon lights still burn bright, but underneath the surface, a generation disillusioned by broken promises has turned to chaos. Gangs, crime, outright warfare. They call it the All-Tokyo Street Wars, a city-wide meltdown where the only law was a steel pipe in your hand. Born out of the carnage, one gang made an explosive rise to power: Soul Crew. They united Tokyo's fractured gangs under one banner, thanks mainly to their philosophy of free soul, combining street know-how with unmatched fighting prowess. Their philosophy hit hard, but it led to a ceasefire on the streets, and for a brief moment, it looked like peace may actually happen. Then it all came crashing down. The leader of Soul Crew murdered in cold blood. No suspects, no mercy, just blood on the streets. And with that, the city snapped once more. The second All-Tokyo Street Wars kicked off, but this time, someone was pulling the strings. A message spreads from the shadows. A mysterious group calling themselves Red Room makes a demand. Tokyo's toughest gangs must face off in a one-on-one tournament. The prize: total control of the streets. Everyone ignored it, until more gang members' bodies started washing up in Tokyo Bay. Now, Tokyo's gangs have no choice. There's no backing down. This isn't just a fight, this is Last Bronx. At first glance, Last Bronx looks like another Virtua Fighter clone, but within a few minutes of playing the game, it feels anything but. And while AM3 kept a traditional control layout of 3 buttons, each assigned to punch, kick and guard, the addition of weapons changes the gameplay dramatically. Bouts in Last Bronx are more tactical than they are in Virtua Fighter 2, where players can win easily with a degree of button bashing. Last Bronx though, even on its easiest difficulty setting, will punish overzealous players via blocking and countering. Bluntly put, if you rush in on Last Bronx you will be beaten easily, and this learning curve can prove off-putting at first. That said, AM3 kept faith with the punch, kick, guard 3-button control setup, giving the game that degree of familiarity to arcade fans and Saturn owners alike. The controls are incredibly responsive though, which is vital for timing those all-important blocks, counters and throws. Last Bronx features 8 playable characters, all of which were voiced by a distinguished cast of Japanese actors and voice actors. Yusaka Kudo, the 19-year-old boss of the Neo Soul Gang from Haneda Airport. He was once third in command of Soul Crew and is hell-bent on finishing the work of his slain former leader. His weapon of choice is a metal Sansetsuken, a lethal 3-section staff. He's voiced by Kazuki Yao, whose voice work includes Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, Initial D and Beast Wars Neo in a career spanning 5 decades. Joe Inagaki is another former member of Soul Crew and former number 2 of the aforementioned Yusaka Kudo. Having sought his independence and an avenue to test his fighting skills in the Last Bronx, his weapons are metal nunchaka, which SEGA had to get special permission from the British Board of Film Classification to include in the PAL release. This is because the use of nunchaka and even images of them were banned in the UK at the time. Joe is voiced by Kaneto Shuizawa, whose work included Mobile Suit Gundam, Fist of the North Star, Dragon Ball GT and Yu-Gi-Oh! He sadly passed away on May 9th, 2000, having fallen down the steps of his home in Shinjuku. Tragically, after declaring he was fine after the fall, he passed away several hours later as his condition deteriorated. He was just 46 years old. Saburo Zaimuku, boss of the Katsushika Dumpsters gang and another former member of Soul Crew. Zaimoku left after the death of their leader and reformed himself by working at his family's construction business. He reluctantly enters the Last Bronx after Redrum blackmailed him and threatens his workers. His weapon of choice is a giant hammer, and he's voiced by Teshio Genda, who despite his incredible wealth of work since 1970, may well be best known as the voice actor for the Japanese version of Transformers in the 1980s. So in this regard, he's essentially the Japanese version of Peter Cullen, having also reprised his role as Optimus Prime or Commander Convoy for the Japanese dub of the 2007 Michael Bay Transformers movie.
私はオプティマスプライム。我々は惑星サイバトロンからやってきた金属生命体だ。
Toru Kurosawa, my favourite character, is the ruthless leader of the Roppongi Hardcore Boys, one of Soul Crew's most notorious enemies. Kurosawa sees the Last Bronx as an ideal opportunity to wipe out his rivals once and for all, and take what he sees as his rightful place as ruler of the streets in Tokyo's gang underworld. His weapon is a bokuto, a wooden sword the size and shape of a katana. Kurosawa is voiced by Norio Wakamoto, whose work includes the Guyver and Macross Plus, as well as the voice of Dracula in the PlayStation, SEGA Saturn and Xbox 360 versions of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Nagi Hojo, leader of the all-woman Dogma gang from the Rainbow Bridge area of Tokyo. Her preferred weapon are a set of sai, also the weapon of choice of a certain Ninja Turtle. Nagi is voiced by Kikuko Inoi, whose career as both a singer and voice actor spans almost 3 decades, including work on anime series Fatal Fury 2, The New Battle, and Magic Knight Rayearth, for which she sang the opening theme. Inoi's video game career includes Lunar Eternal Blue on Mega CD, as well as Policenauts, Mystaria Realms of Lore, and Dragon Force on Sega Saturn. Yoko Kono, boss of the G-Troops from the Tokyo subway, who were originally an airsoft survival game group until the economic crash, which led to them expanding into military martial arts. Kono enters the Last Bronx to find her missing brother, who was last seen striking a deal with Redrum. Her weapon of choice is a pair of tonfa, and she's voiced by Megumi Ogata, whose credits include the manga series of Magic Knight Rayearth, Dragon Ball Z, and the voice of Power Stone fighter Wang Tang. Tommy Hiroshi, boss of the Shibuya skateboarder gang Helter Skelter. Although originally from Osaka, Tommy created Helter Skelter mainly to give his group a place to skateboard without intrusion. When the Last Bronx became official though, Tommy entered for several reasons, most of which were selfishly self-centred, namely for personal thrill-seeking and to try and impress Lisa Kusanami. Tommy's weapon of choice is a bow staff, and he's voiced by Nobuyuki Hiyama, whose work includes Pokemon, Initial D and Yu-Gi-Oh! And finally, the aforementioned Lisa Kusanami, leader of the Orchids, who are both a band and a gang located in the Moonlight Garden of the Takashiba ship terminal. Lisa's involvement in the Last Bronx is somewhat accidental, having created the Orchids to escape her troubled home life and provide an outlet for her creativity. Her weapon of choice are twin metal sticks, and she's voiced by Mina Tominaga, whose TV work includes Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And manga series City Hunter and City Hunter 2. Tominaga's video game work also includes Snatcher, Metal Slug, King of Fighters 2001, and Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Ultimate. Moving on to the graphics though, Last Bronx is without doubt one of the best looking games on the Saturn and is one of the most impressive Model 2 ports on the system. As amazing as Virtua Fighter 2 is, one of the complaints, for lack of a better term, is that you could spot the ring floating on the VDP2 background plane during replays, and some of the background elements were clearly 2D. Last Bronx though managed to fool many a reviewer back in the day. In fact, they still fool some retro gamers today into believing the backgrounds on the Saturn version were fully 3D, thanks to the more advanced use of VDP2. They are fully 2D though, yet the backgrounds on Last Bronx have a sense of solidity and depth not seen in Virtua Fighter 2, with stages also having 3D perimeter fencing which can be used to mount jumping attacks. The fighters also look sensational, with great texture work and facial expressions during replays and taunts. Last Bronx runs in the Saturn's high resolution mode at 60 frames per second, making it an absolute joy to watch in action, let alone play. In terms of audio though, Last Bronx opens with a gorgeous anime-inspired intro to set the scene, backed by the phenomenal Jaggy Love by Japanese R&B group D Secrets, which to this day is one of my most favourite pieces of music from any SEGA game. It's also one of my most requested songs on Radio Sega. Sorry guys. Weapons clash and clang with weight, the voice acting is stellar, and each actor gives their character a unique feel and tone, further adding to the feeling of rival gangs from various backgrounds and circumstances. Simply put, Last Bronx is a must play. Whether you're new to the SEGA Saturn or have had it sitting on your shelf or on your ODE for a while, it's one that you've got to give time to impress you and show that there's more to 3D fighters on Saturn than Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers and Fighters Megamix. Its blend of fantastic graphics, bone-crunching sound, memorable music and varied roster of characters makes this one you'll come back to again and again. If you've made it to the end, thanks as always for watching. This is James the Segaholic of the Sega Guys. Let us know in the comments what you think about Last Bronx, and until next time, we'll see you on the Sega side.